A while back, a wounded warrior walked through the doors of the West Texas Rehab, and that was the start of his partnership in recovery with the Rehab Center. This is Army Staff Sergeant Michael Burns' story in his own words.
So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I was a mortgage banker and a broker, and we had our oldest daughter, Ashley, and Robin was pregnant with our second oldest child, Peyton, and everything had been going on overseas, and I just felt this overwhelming desire, this need to go do my part while I was still young enough to do it. So I did a little research and talked to a couple people, and I came home one day from work and I told my wife that, hey, I'm gonna go enlist. And she kind of stared at me for a second like I was crazy, and then but she said, okay, you know, do what you feel you got to do. So enlisted in the Army. We were assigned to Fort Riley, Kansas, and the unit that I was with was getting ready to deploy for the start of the Iraq War. During OIF-1, when the war had first started, we had settled into a small forward operating base called FOB Kalsu. And the area that we were in was pretty much in the middle of the Sunni Triangle. We were responsible for route security, as well as searching for weapons caches within the small villages and towns within our area of operation. The FOB that we were on came under mortar and rocket fire on almost a daily basis. And I can recall the day I got hit. It was very odd. I happened to have a day down. I was able to do some laundry. I was doing some laundry in a 5-gallon bucket, hanging some stuff out on a clothesline. A round came in and hit an infantry tent that was right next door to us. And there were some guys in there that got hit, and we could hear them screaming. So we started running towards them and pulling them out. And right after that, a rocket round had landed about 15 meters from me, and just part of the shrapnel had peppered me in my leg and the upper part of my shin or tibia. It knocked me to the ground, and at first I was surprised. It just burned. It was just a lot of burning sensation. I was seen by my medic, and because of the situation at the time, it was just a quick evaluation. I was up, I was walking, I was moving, and there was some pain and discomfort, but I was able to function. So it's what we call walking wounded and still fit to fight.
They medevaced Michael home for his first surgery, soon realizing that a second surgery was needed. He declined so he could return to the soldiers he felt responsible for overseas.
I finished that deployment, came home, and that's when my chain of command really stepped up and insisted that I started getting my leg taken care of. From that point, I went through a series of 7 surgeries. They had initially talked about amputation, and I had refused, and that was the thing that kept coming up. You know, we're just going to need to amputate. There's just nothing that medical science can do at this point. Still have a lot of young kids at home, and not being able to be active with them and do the things that a father should do, you know, teach your kids to play football and basketball, or just go hunting with them or hiking with them, you know, it was just, it was an impossible task. It's so hard when you go from 100 miles an hour, you know, you're active duty military, you're deploying, you're training, you know, you're doing PT every morning, and you're going from 100 miles an hour, all of a sudden it just kind of comes to a screeching halt. And it's been very difficult, not only on me, but my family as a whole. You know, a lot of times my wife, you know, just doing simple things, grocery shopping. You know, I would be good for standing or walking maybe 10, 15 minutes, and after that, I would be done. My kids constantly, you know, hey Dad, you know, can you come out and shoot hoops with us? Hey Dad, can you show me how to throw a spiral? Hey Dad, you know, can we, you know, go for a hike or a walk? You know, stuff that we used to do, go hunting, stuff that we used to do together, and just telling them, you know, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Before moving to Abilene, the Burns family lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and ran into a problem with the VA there.
Being part of the Phoenix VA system, it was nearly impossible to get any type of decent medical care.
About that time, Michael got acquainted with the Texas Sentinels Foundation, which supports wounded warriors from Texas. They offered to build him a home free of charge.
They said, hey, would you be willing to move to Abilene, Texas? They were going to start building a ADA compliant home for me and my family, just to make it easier for me to get around the house and be more functional with my family. And not knowing anything about Abilene, I've heard of it, but never been here before. Didn't really know much more than it was in Texas. Did a little research and found out that it had everything that a big town has. You got all the stores and the restaurants and a mall and all that stuff, but it still has that small town feel. And it was actually perfect match for us.
Earlier this year, the Texas Sentinel's project house was completed, and in a brief emotional ceremony, Michael and his family were given the keys to a brand new debt-free house. Prior to moving into their home, they had one big obstacle.
We had met with a couple of doctors, a couple of surgeons, and we talked to them about just saying, okay, maybe we need to go ahead and do the amputation. When we found out that was basically our last resort, we just decided, all right, let's do it. When we came home and told them that we were going to go ahead and go with the procedure of the amputation, and my boys especially got all fired up. Hey, can you play soccer with us? She said, yeah, I'll get to the point I'll play soccer with you, And my youngest, my 6-year-old, started laughing, or I started laughing when he told me, well, I don't know if it's a good idea because you may kick the ball too hard and we'll lose it. The bionic leg thing. So prior to the surgery, I had dealt with West Texas Rehab before. I was fortunate enough to meet Rob, who had done a brace for my left leg months prior to my surgery, just to help with stability. And I knew I wanted to come back here. Not only because I had dealt with Rob, but I knew I could do my physical therapy and my prosthetics all in the same place. So I had met with Rob, and I was introduced to Scott at that time, and basically told him what my goals were. I had done some research. I said, look, this is the prosthetic I want. This is the leg I want. This is the time frame we got to have it, and these are my goals because I got to run this 5K on this date. And they all kind of looked at me like I was crazy for a minute, but being as persistent and I guess demanding as I am, they just agreed. Okay, we'll make it happen. As long as you can, keep up and do your part, we'll make it happen. And it's just been an amazing, wild ride since then. They've been great. They've allowed me to, not only do they encourage me to push myself, but they allow me to push myself, and they allow me to set my own limits.
Michael plans to run in the Tough Mudders race a little later this year. With the support of his family, Rob and Scott, and his physical therapist, Tony, he's ready for anything that comes his way.
If it wasn't for West Texas Rehab, I'd be driving 5 hours down to San Antonio, which was a big concern for us. We still have a bunch of young kids, and the fact that I would have had to gone down there not only for the procedure but for the rehab, I would have been down there 4, 5, 6 months at least, at a minimum, if not longer, away from my family, living in a hospital. The fact that, West Texas Rehab is here, so close to home. I was able to be released from the hospital 2.5 days after the procedure. I was able to immediately start coming over and seeing Rob and the team and start working on the things that I needed to have done. To be quite honest with you, I don't know if I would have been quite as positive about the procedure and the experience if I would have had been 5.5 hours away from my family the whole time for months on end. It definitely makes a huge difference on your mental well-being. From the day I got my leg, I'm up more, I'm more active. I feel like I'm a bigger part of the family. I feel like I'm able to be more of the husband and the father that I need to be, that I was meant to be, that I was so limited from being before. So, and every day it just gets better and better. I would say that anytime you got people that are so involved with the physical aspect of your life, it's important for them to not only have a clear knowledge and understanding of you and what your goals are, but I need to have one of them as well. I absolutely think it's very important to have that personal relationship with them. You don't want to show up someplace where they're just treating you like another number, like herding cattle through, next. So to have that type of treatment here, I know that I'm getting the best care possible. And if I didn't feel like I was, I wouldn't stay. We're big believers that God always puts you exactly where you need to be